I mean, they're going to outperform us all. They're incredibly curious, incredibly pleasant. Like, you know, and I noticed this even back in Sochi when I was there a few years ago. I was always impressed by the up and coming generation in Russia. I mean, I was on a couple of domestic flights where there was like school trips and that, and I always found the kids to be so open. They talk to this foreigner on the plane, like, look at my game, or you know, without any hesitation, without any fear, without any poker face, you know, without any of it. It was totally open. This is the biggest thing I see in the next gen of people in Russia. There is a lot less, and I don't mean this in a bad way at all. There's a lot less suspicion. There's a lot more openness. You don't have to work as hard to make the relationship. It's all coming much more natural. And that's why I say they're going to outperform us all, because you know, IQ in Russia is very high, and EQ in Russia is also very high. So I think the next gen are really going to change the landscape entirely from a business perspective and from an economic perspective as well. I think Russia's best years are definitely ahead. There's no question. I think we're both very direct cultures. Okay, in Ireland, I mean, this is a very Russian thing that I'm about to say, but it's a very Irish thing. In Ireland, we get to know people best through having a good argument with each other. You know, that's when you really start to understand the other person. And when that argument is over, that is it. It is over. Like there is no badness being held. There's no grudge. There's nothing. You know, I'll always go back to when I was a waiter back in the old days of the industry. When you were a waiter, it was you versus the chef. You know what I mean? The chef would blame you for everything. You would blame the chef for everything. And that's just how it was. And after service, you would both be in the pub having a drink and you'd be the best of friends. It's very similar over here. You know, people are not scared to say what they think. People are not scared to get emotional about things that they're attached to because they believe something good will come from it. And we feel the exact same way in Ireland. You know what I mean? You'll always get the truth out. And everybody's just trying to fight for what they believe in. This is very important in both cultures. And we appreciate openness and we appreciate honesty and directness. It's how we get things done. So I think that's the biggest similarity I see between the cultures. And also both cultures have long histories and are full of emotion. You know, and this is also something very much that connects, I think, Russian and Irish cultures.
And we celebrate St. Patrick's Day too here in Moscow.
Doing it. And you see, I went through all of that without mentioning alcohol once. I went through that whole thing, and I didn't go for the obvious thing. I just went for the.
What are the differences? Do you see any, or are there?
It's a good question. Yeah, I would say, yeah. The main one is, and this will contradict what I said about the next generation, but the next generation is still next. The main difference, I would say, is that in Ireland, when you meet us for the first time, you meet us at 100%. We are wide open to you. You have 100% of our respect. You have 100% of our love. You have 100% of everything. We start at 100. After that, it's up to you. You can stay at 100, or you can go down. If it's up to you, it's on you how you behave. But we've gone into this with open arms. And that's how we are as well. Like if you ever visit Ireland, you go to a pub on your own or you go anywhere on your own, you will not be on your own for long. You know what I mean? We will want to know who you are, what you're doing, what's your story, you know, are you having fun? Why not? How can we help you have fun? You know, we're all about you. We're open. That is not the case in Russia. In Russia, it takes a little bit longer. People have to trust first. And I'm sure you've heard this before. When you make a friend in Russia, or when you make a business friend in Russia or whatever, it does mean more because you've had to work harder for it, you know? But that is the main fundamental difference between the two societies, I think. We're wide open from day one. Russia, it takes more time.
Fascinating, indeed, and so true. I can absolutely agree 100% with what you just said.
It's a really good question. It's something that I'm interested in as well because I think, okay, I think coming from the Western attitude towards Russia, I think the biggest misconception is wrapping it up that Russia should be like the rest of the world. Because whenever you see a negative news story or a one-sided discussion about Russia, it's normally because it's different to the Western way. And that's exactly the beauty of Russia, is that it is its own culture. And it's 150 million people. It's the largest landmass in the world. And I think in a lot of ways, like why does that mean it should be the way it is in the West? You know, it has its own identity. It has its own history. It's at its own point in time. So I think the biggest misconception is that everybody should be like the West, because that would be completely boring and there'd be no point in traveling or seeing anything if everybody was the same. I also think there's a lot of misconception about the values in Russia and the things that Russian society feel that are important. So I think that's the biggest misconception, is that everybody's very serious all of the time, and that it's always cold, and that, you know, I mean, the old jokes about there's bears on the streets and everything. I mean, this is an incredibly modern society that's hungry for progress and hungry for success, and puts family at the center of everything, and has massive values on the soft skills as well as the hard skills. These are misconceptions that I look forward to seeing changed over time. And on the other side of things, to answer the second part of your question, biggest misconception, I'd say the other way, is that I think sometimes there can be suspicion about foreigners coming in, why are you coming here, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes the answer to that question is as simple as, well, we like it here. It's really nice. You know what I mean? We like the food and the atmosphere, and the people are cool, and you meet friends, and it's good, and you can get business done, and you can get things working and moving, and there's momentum, and it's dynamic, and you can make things happen, and it can be as simple as that. And I think that could be the biggest misconception as well, is that, you know, this is a desirable location for so many people. You know what I mean? And it's a country and a culture that I think will be embraced more and more as time goes on. I think what I'm going to take away from this period is to be more optimistic. It's definitely to be more optimistic. It's definitely to believe that, you know, and to remind myself more and more that things are going to be better, because when you're stuck in that crisis management bubble, which all of us were, in some way or another, all of us were stuck in a crisis management situation. You know, the leaders of countries, obviously, maybe more than others, but, you know, whether you're running a business or you're running your house or you're running your life, you were in a crisis management situation during this past year in some regard. And I think that's a difficult one to navigate when you're listening to the media and when you're dealing with the fallout of in my case, of tourism, etc., and you're trying to make things work, etc. It's easy to get kind of lost in the noise. It's easy to get lost in the noise. And I think the one main thing that I would have learned from that is that, you know, miracles do happen. You know, things do get better. You know, the end will be better than the beginning, you know, and that's a key thing I'm trying to use now more and more, is to be more optimistic in life in general, and to believe that tomorrow will be better than today, because today is temporary, you know. I hope for everybody that nobody has to go through anything like this again, but if in any situation you learn much more in the bad times than you ever do in the good times, but you have to learn it. So it's going to be interesting to see what's brought forward now from this, because as we come out of it, lessons have to be learned for the future.
Absolutely. Yes. At the end of the day, it's what you've taken away, what you've learned.